But the last time I came to your show, I dropped you right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Rewriters Room. We are the men with the pen. That's fire. We should put that on a shirt or something.
I like that.
You like that? You like that? Yeah, I'm messing with that. We're the boys who we rebook, we fantasy book, we rewrite, we take storylines that have been controversial and we talk through them and we talk about things we would have done differently. I'm the boy Armand, the former leader of the Money in the Bank contract that was held by Otis. I'm the former leader of that watch committee. And currently I've joined Channing in the Bianca Belair hive, the Street Profits hive. And there's just a lot of black excellence that's there to be excited about. So I'm very happy with that. Fellas, how y'all doing?
It's Big CC in the building, aka Big Reader, Mr. Natural Juice, all healthy fruits and fresh vegetables and everything that you can enjoy in life. Welcome to the hive, bro. Glad you're seeing the light now. Bianca Belair is my Nubian queen, even though she's taken. I understand that. I also have my own Nubian queen. I just mean as an idol, as somebody I put up there on the shelf.
Oh yeah,
she's up there. It's Angela Davis, Bianca Belair.
Chan, what's good, bro?
Things are going well. I am just getting settled in. I feel another Baron Corbin push coming on. Another top tier storyline by our king. I see it. I see the seeds getting laid. Corbin and the Mysterios. Perfect.
Yeah, we will see what they do with that. I know I have my feelings on Corbin. I've grown to like him a little bit. Like I kind of see the appeal now. But I just remember that awful Corbin and Roman feud last year with the dog food and like they had like 4
They ran it back. Yeah.
It's like, yo, come on, dog. Like I understand what we're doing. Like, Corbin is a top heel, I guess, so we're trying to build Roman up. They were trying to get him over, but they extended that way too long. But to recap some other bad stuff in wrestling, in our last episode, I was talking about how Survivor Series is one of my favorite pay-per-views, but the build to it was pretty underwhelming. And the pay-per-view turned out pretty underwhelming as well. I mean, we got a really good match in Street Profits versus New Day. I was very interested in that match. I thought New Day, I thought the Street Profits were going to go over, and they actually ended up going over, which to me, I felt like that was a huge sign of respect from the New Day. Kind of giving this new team that look, we have heard of certain wrestlers who are selfish and don't like to take losses, but I think there's a genuine relationship between the New Day and Street Profits to where they want to make the Street Profits look really good too. J5 had an interesting theory about the Street Profits losing and then turning heel, which would have also been very interesting as well. They're really, really great faces, but I do think they could be incredible heels. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed that match. Angelo Dawkins in particular performed really well because, I mean, to me, it's pretty clear that Montez is the much stronger just performer and on the mic and everything within the Street Profits. But Angelo really showed out in that match too. And Xavier Woods has been cooking on another level in the ring. So yeah, shout out to them. How'd you guys feel about that match and then Survivor Series as a whole?
Only the black people did well. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. That's all I remember from Survivor Series. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. It was amazing. Like, I watched the New Day and Street Profits match. I just remember watching it, and my girl was walking by, and I pointed out to her. I was like, yo, I'm watching, like, these are all black people, and they're all chanting in this match right now. Yeah. That's fucking crazy. And I was just, like, thinking about that. And then just thinking about how, like you said, like how Xavier's been killing it. So one thing I noticed is like when he was when he spent his time away on when, especially when he was doing his up, down stuff, like really, really crazy, and that was like really, really taking off, and he had to be away. It was like something I noticed, like in the way I like to watch the way people talk to see how they are over time. Something in his tweets was getting spicier over time.
Yeah,
and now you starting to see that shit come out in the ring and backstage or whatever. Like one of the cool things that happened on this past episode of Raw is when the Hurt Business were walking away. MVP had like, put his, I think he had like maybe like tapped him on the shoulder or whatever. And Xavier was just like, you want to put your hands on me, man, or whatever. It's like little things like that that make like that moment or whatever when you're watching it. Cause they have like, for a second, I was like, hold on. Cause like as a like it's three niggas on this podcast, we know like for in some instances when the niggas say like don't put your hands on me, sometimes that shit gonna lead to a not so peaceful night. So like so like when I saw it, I was like, oh wait, he's like, and the fact that he caught me for that second, I was like, he's cooking in the ring, out of the ring, and then like I think about how like Kofi, we know where he's going eventually. I'm like, wow, E and like our Woods are really going to get their time to shine. So like not only are they putting a New Day over, like their shit is also growing too. And like to think about the fact that the New Day can grow from where it already was is crazy. So it's amazing. Again, Black Power.
All right. And Chan, how about you, man?
So speaking on my black brethren in the New Day, I think it's very important to note that Xavier Woods is like wild brolic right now.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's been talking crazy, but like you look at him, he's like twice the size of Kofi, which is like not always a thing. So I think that leads to like good things in his future. He's like massive. But one thing on the positive note I will say about Survivor Series, I like, and maybe this is not a popular wrestling Twitter thing, but I like really didn't like the triple threat thing last year. Like for the singles titles, it was cool. Like it's 3 people, but like for the tag titles, it was like 15 people. It was just too hard to keep track of everything. Like I think they'd be better off served going like, I don't know what you do with the women's titles, honestly, but whatever. But you could go like, Universal WWE, and then have like UK champion versus NXT champion, then have like Cruiserweight champion versus North American champion. But like having all these triple threats is just too. I personally just wasn't a fan of it. So I did like that did happen this year, but in terms of like the actual content of the matches we saw, it was just like I was watching and I was just like, oh, so y'all like are really still wrestling right now. Like Bobby Lashley is really still wrestling. Like that should have been a squash. Why is this match going on for like even like what it was like 8 minutes? Like still, that should have been a squash. Shaw, of course, did good, but like at a certain point, it's like, come on, let's wrap it up. Like, let's get to the point. And also the way like I get you're trying to make the whole Raw storyline keep going, but like the whole 5-0, like none of them lost to me. It was so whack. Like I hated that. The women's ending was kind of clever. Like I get that it didn't make them all look strong, which I guess was the point, but like I hated the way the men's match ended.
It just
see here's the thing. The women's match let me know that the only certain matches had thinking going into them. That's when I realized. I was like, I put shit together and I looked at it, I was like, wait, the New Day Street Profits had a good match. That women's thing, like they found a creative way to take the fact that we all know that we don't want to see this match and like make it into something entertaining. But the men didn't even bother to do that. Like, it's out of their control, this is creative, whatever. But like, and then like, we had, who was it at the end? Drew and Roman, whatever. And I was like, I think those are the only 3 times where I was like actually paying attention.
Yeah.
And it's because like somebody put thinking into it. There was nothing that went into anything else. It was like this could have just not happened at all.
Yeah. I like, and the men's Raw team was just so stacked going into it, and like they didn't have the full SmackDown men's team until the Friday show right before the pay-per-view, and they talked about it. Meals and J5 talked about it on the A show, but the whole thing with Seth Rollins just like took so much excitement from the match. Like Seth cooks at Survivor Series. Seth is
got paternity leave.
Yeah, it's like it was funny. It was like it was a moment. It was a memorable moment. But it was like, yo, without Seth, I have no faith in this SmackDown team. Like KO is that guy. Jay Uso's doing his thing, but they're not beating Keith Lee, Braun Strowman, Sheamus, Matt Riddle, and AJ. It's just not happening. Like it's not realistic. So that was just there was no thought that went into it. It was like, we're just gonna do some shit and like hope it goes. And like Jey Uso spamming super kicks at the end, like it just wasn't believable.
Hey, controls.
like
Teching that shit just like X button.
I'm like, come on, man. Like, come on. Like, really? Yeah, y'all had all these, like, they had really good talent in that match. Like, even if the Raw team was significantly better than the SmackDown team, they had really good personalities. There's a lot they could do. The person who performed the best on the SmackDown team was the person no one wanted on the SmackDown team. Otis. He was heating up in that match. Like,
Otis was
flexing everybody.
Rocking, my nigga.
I'm like, like you have the potential to do big things here, and the majority of the match was just a huge flop. Like it really doesn't make any sense to me.
And then here's what really pissed me off about that. Here's why that made me mad.
Yeah.
It's because almost everyone except for Seth, like, it's funny, Shannon, first of all, it's funny that you said that shit because I literally was thinking the same thing. I was like, okay, this Buddy Murphy shit is wrapping up. How is Seth about to write his way into paternity leave or whatever?
Paternity leave.
If you look at this nigga in the last couple weeks or whatever compared to like 6 months ago, he already got that dad weight shit going on. Like, you just gotta
he's not wrestling.
Y'all. Yeah, but
Wow.
The reason why it pissed me off is two reasons. The first thing is, like, look at how much new talent, and if not new talent, people we are now putting into the spotlight that went into this match. This is people who are now going to the spotlight / new talent. Keith Lee, Riddle, we're bringing back Kevin Owens into the spotlight. Jey Uso, and Otis. So like between Jey, Keith Lee, Riddle, and Otis, those are four new people who are now getting that like kind of like shine or whatever. And then you have a bunch of seasoned vets in there. Sheamus and AJ that we know of are just at that point where they're just cool with putting people over or whatever. So my thing was like, why are we not even doing a thing where we're showcasing the new talent? Like, what are we doing? Like, we're not really doing that. So what are we doing? And then my other main gripe, and I'm gonna cut it out after this, is you have Jey Uso and King Corbin and Seth Rollins on a team, also in kind of Kevin Owens, who's kind of like a wild card or whatever. Like, that's 3.5. That's like 3 in the possible when it comes to heels. And you did nothing with those creative minds, like those guys who find ways to win matches outside of the ring or doing crazy shit. You found nothing. So I'm just like, so what are we supposed to believe about these people's character? What was the point?
I don't understand. And then like Asuka, Sasha Banks, we've seen that so many times. Like, they're both great in the ring, but it wasn't a match to get excited for because we saw it all summer. And then the match, like the finish was, they have to keep Asuka strong. They're always going to protect Asuka. I get it. So, Sasha rolling her up, whatever. But I don't know. Again, it was just a very deflating match, a very deflating ending. And it didn't really do much for Sasha. And like, again, they were talking about this on the A show, but like someone on commentary even said like Sasha like squeaked by, like barely put that out. Like she doesn't look strong as a champion. Like, she's now the boss who's running the SmackDown division, and she's been getting owned by Carmella for the last few weeks. Like, and so this match match didn't do anything.
Please don't do this. Don't start. Don't even get me started on the whole Carmella, because like honestly, that's probably why she had a match like that, so they can make her look weak. Because there's no reason on God's green earth why Carmella should be getting like. We talking about Jey Uso super kick. Carmella doesn't even give full effort on her super kick. Like, get your leg up above your shoulders. You're like bent. Like, what kind of crane super kick is this? Like, I cannot stand Carmella. I've never understood it, never liked it. Always been like not a fan. Even when like with Ellsworth and her just like sneaking Sasha Banks like 2 weeks. It's just, I don't want to do this. Not today. Yeah. It's not how I'm spending my day.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's like, because my thing is like, and this is the last point on the Asuka and Sasha thing, especially more like the Sasha. You look at SmackDown and you look at the women or whatever, and your next pick for who's going to be fucking with Sasha Banks is Carmella out of everyone who's there. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rather, it would be funnier and more entertaining and make more sense if Billie Kay did it, because it would just be funny. It would
Billie Kay.
Hold on, you did
better on the mic. Way better on the mic.
Yeah, like, because it would be Sasha saying you did nothing to deserve this, Billie Kay being like, nah, give me a shot, and then like some other random person comes through, and then you can make like a kind of a story out of it where Sasha's just watching people try to get to the spot of the challenger or whatever. But like, maybe it will become that. But like, I'm sorry, we've gotten too far. We're in for a penny now, like in for a pound with the Carmella shit. So it's like we gotta fully realize that. And I just watched. I think yes. So yeah, unfortunately, I just saw her this past Friday or whatever doing that promo, and I was just like, wow, like racism is crazy. Like when you think about it, it's so pervasive. Like it can stop the world from doing so many great things, and it can just exalt people into positions they should never be in. Like,
Yeah.
it's just...
Like what reason in 2020 do I have to be interested, excited for, invested in a Carmella heel turn where she's coming back as the untouchable? And like, if they do what I think they're gonna do and have her get the title off Sasha Banks, all hell is gonna break loose for social media. I mean, and Sasha actually has a lot of haters. There are a lot of people who think she's overrated and doesn't deserve this, but like, no one wants to see Carmella in her place.
Yeah, no.
Like, that's not a good alternative. So, like, WWE, please just you give us Bianca versus Sasha. Like, just please.
Thank you.
Please do it. Like,
they also need to do another call up, I think, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rhea got to be coming up soon. Rhea, she like did that farewell match with Io and was like, "I respect you." Whatever. That's like the classic call up match before call up or whatever.
They are starving. Those women's divisions. They're starving. But one match that was worth it. It was truly a main event. Roman versus Drew. The build to it was excellent. That contract signing where Roman says, "Nah, I'm sitting at the head of the table." He's sitting there. No mics. No microphones. Like, it was just so. That was so well produced.
Level, nigga.
That like him sitting there smiling at Drew, like just looking at him, just smiling, like, you're the right guy at the right place at the wrong time. You're the guy they call when Roman's like bars. That was Roman.
So you a second tier champion.
That was not Roman Reigns. That was Roman Latrell Reigns. Like Latrell came out. I love when he brings Latrell out. Like he be talking that cash shit on people.
It was 9 p.m. in the Thunderdome. That's what that shit we gonna call that shit.
Man, like he was on
that boy was
another level. And then the match was just so good. And even with Jay interfering and like the low blow, but it's like, that's what Roman's doing now. Roman is gonna win by any means. And like, it was cool to see him tell Jay, "Oh, go home." And then like, so like, I don't know if we're supposed to think that like Roman telling Jay to go home was like part of their plan, and then Jay ended up coming, or like, or Jay just like defied him and like ended up coming out anyways. But we saw at the end, Jay helped him get the win, and then they ended up hugging. So Roman was impressed with what he did, and we know Roman's been very like iffy on Jay and like what he's been doing, and very kind of controlling of him. So it was cool to see that their relationship evolve a bit with Jay's involvement. How'd you guys feel about the match?
Yeah, I felt the exact same. I thought having Jay come out at that moment was the right thing to do. When I saw it, it was one of those like it wasn't a shock but not surprise. It was a surprise but not shocked or whatever. Because I was like, oh, okay, they did that. But I'm like, yeah, no, I see why you would do that. But I thought it was amazing that Roman still did what he did too. And like, I think that's what, like, little things like that are what makes this a story that you want to see what happens. Because if Jay just comes out and super kicks him, or like twice, or just does whatever, and then Roman pins him, and maybe he doesn't know he was there, or even if he saw it, if Roman didn't have anything to do with it, or if Roman has no culpability or whatever, then he can really just put it all on Jay. But Roman, like, I feel like the real reason why he was able to get that nigga is because he low blowed that nigga. Like, fuck that little super kick. He got Roman put his whole ass like 30-inch bicep right there. Like, he just really low blowed the shit out of him. So
he's got a wicked low blow. Like,
yeah,
his low blow is wicked.
Yeah. So when you look at it, it's like, oh, like Roman was already doing some like off the cuff shit or whatever. So like, it makes it complicated at the end, which is why I think the look that he gives him even right before he hugs him is like, yeah. I mean, because ultimately, like, it's like one of those things like, okay, my end goal was to win. We did that. Okay, here. But and that's why it's great, because you get to see, like, he's, like you said, iffy. Like, he's very iffy. Like, sometimes it's like, yeah, come hug me. Other times it's just like, nigga, you did nothing. Yeah, go home. So, yeah, it's cool.
Man, and I think we also got to give Roman credit for how much he gave Drew. Like, he really made Drew look very, very good. Drew kicked out of spears, Superman punches, a bunch of stuff. And like, with Roman's top guy nature, I don't know if you guys watched his interview with Corey Graves, but the way he was talking about like the other talent, Roman seems very like beyond a lot of the roster. Like he's like, yo, I'm not really impressed with anyone here. Like if there were people impressive, I wouldn't have had to come back. And it's like, damn, it's like that's how Roman feels. But you can tell he really, really respects Drew and how Drew's been holding it down for the WWE. And like Roman leaving for all those months, it kind of left a void, and Drew stepped up into that top guy role, and he's really done a good job. Like people are constantly giving him credit for how well he's evolved. So seeing Roman give him that much and give him that much respect, like he ended up having to choke Drew out, and like Drew didn't tap, so it still makes Drew look really strong. But it was just a really cool finish and a really good way to make both of them, like, to really just showcase how far both of them have come.
Yeah, I think for myself, like, as a wrestling fan, I'm like not the most like technically proficient person. Like, I'm not like I'm always been about like the presentation and like the storyline. Like they can really get in the ring and like fake punch. See a lot of like grapples and reverses, whatever. So I think the first thing about the presentation that made the match lit was that finally Roman took off that goddamn Kevlar vest. I think the fact that, because like the first time they wrestled each other at WrestleMania, it was ridiculous because Roman is wearing like full tactical gear and Drew's in like just drawers, and it's like, this doesn't look fair because they're both massive people, but like one of them has armor on, so like, yeah, this doesn't seem like a fair fight at all. Like obviously the guy with the jet with the boots on is gonna win. So like, I love that. Like it looks much more like mano-y-mano. Like we both got a lot of gel in our hair. Like we both got beards. We're both tall, dark, and handsome. Like let's get to it. Let's give Vince what he wants. And it really got to it, like you said, like all the kicking out, because even that's going back to Drew with the Brock match, where like kicking out a finisher, like Drew had this kind of resilience, even though he's not like a physically like a Jeff Hardy figure, he has a resiliency where it's like the never say die, like you got this kid, like he has that to him as well. And also like, again, I think I've said this before too, like everyone's spear don't hit the same, and Roman's spear hits. Don't get me wrong, but that guillotine is a fire finisher, especially for someone like as big as Roman to like wrap himself around you like a python. Like I think it's just such a good visual for like Roman to have something where it's like, it's kind of like they're like ruthless aggression where like every top guy all of a sudden finisher became a submission. Like John Cena did STFU, The Rock was doing the sharpshooter, like Undertaker was doing triangle takeover, Brock Lesnar was doing like that bicycle thing where you put your leg, like everyone's finisher all of a sudden was a submission. I love that Roman is like getting to that level now where it's like, not only can I like knock you out, I will like incapacitate you just very casually, just because I can, like not because I don't have to. So I think that helps his like solidifies him as well too.
See, it's funny because that's exactly how I saw it. Like, because I never, like, when you think about Roman, submission is the last thing you think about. Like, you do never even think about. Like, now when I think about it, I'm trying to think of how many rest holds I've seen him put people in, and I'm trying to think about it.
He doesn't do a lot.
It's not
doesn't
like
do any type of locks or holds, like maybe an armbar, but he does a lot of like punching, striking. Striking.
The closest you get to submission with him is him putting somebody in a corner. Like that's the closest.
Yeah.
So
really
when I was when I was thinking about it, I felt that same thing, like with the image of him like choking somebody out, and it's like he has their whole like they're standing up, and it's weird because like here's why I like the guillotine as a submission for him, and especially his character right now, is because his character is one where he's saying like, I'm the top guy, I deserve all this stuff, but at the same time, like he's doing like little sneaky snake little things, and like he's kind of parasitic or whatever at the same time, because like as much as he's saying like I'm the guy and I'm bringing all this stuff in, like once the stuff is in, he's saying like he's just trying to go around and take whatever he wants, which is, and I think that relates to his submission move, because it's like he's literally, you're standing up or whatever, and he's just grabbing onto you and just choking life out of you or whatever while you stand up, which is what his character is right now. It's like, I'm gonna come. It's like, what is it? He was like, show. What is it? What's his motto now? Like, show up, whoop ass, and leave, or something like that.
Show up and win.
Show up and win. Wreck everyone and leave.
Yeah, wreck everyone and leave.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like that kind of thing where it's just like, all right, like instead of looking at this mountain of a, Drew or whatever that a normal person would look at it, like this motherfucker just jumps on top of it and just like, all right, cool. Like, let me see if I can choke it out or whatever. I just like the randomness of it. It's really cool. I think it fits his character because I can't guess what he's gonna say or do next.
He's made a lot of good changes with this new character. His moveset is great. He's doing that like jumping leg lariat. He's doing the big boot now. Like he's he's really stepped it up, and like the guillotine matches. Like you said, it matches the type of person, the character that he is now. Like it fits in. And him introducing that in his match with Braun, like choking Braun out to show us that move was like, all right, Roman, all right, bro, you got it. You got it. Yeah. And then coupling it with, like you said, taking off the vest, like he's huge now, like the one glove, like he's doing everything right.
Oh, that Thanos glove is so hard. Oh my God.
It really is. It really is.
New teeth.
Yeah, that's
real
okay.
heelish.
Roman,
real heelish.
I thought it was
Latrell Reigns, Roman B. Reigns,
yeah,
Roman B. Reigns.
Michael B. Jordan, who? But speaking of people with the name B, our main event for this Rewriters Room episode. This week, we want to talk about a woman, and this is not just any woman. She's one of the 4 horsewomen. She is the Irish last kicker. She is the pride of Ireland. She is Becky Balboa. We're talking about the man, the mom, Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
Now, I've really grown to love Becky. I always liked her character. I was first introduced to her when they had the brand extension on SmackDown in 2016. She was the first SmackDown Women's Champion and held the title for a bit. And, you know, that she kind of had this weird phase where she wasn't really doing much. Like, she was probably the least relevant of the 4 horsewomen for a while. With Bayley and Sasha doing their thing on Raw, Charlotte is obviously just being the GOAT. Like she was the GOAT very early on, and she's only risen more. But we get to 2018, Charlotte took a little break after Carmella cashed in on her with the Money in the Bank briefcase, and we get to Becky. Kind of going on this crazy rise. Like she was a bit more feisty. She wanted more opportunities. She was really fighting for them. And then we end up getting that triple threat match where Charlotte returns. It's Carmella versus Becky versus Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's title. And from there, Becky goes on a very long journey that we know. Before we get into that, I just want to generally speak on Becky. What are you guys' feelings on Becky Lynch and her career? And then do you have any favorite matches or moments so far in her career?
So real quick, I'm a really big Becky Lynch fan, which is why I'm glad she's on break right now. And I'm wishing the best for her and the family, everybody safe as we're going through this COVID stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a really big Becky fan, and it's funny that she became compared to this person or whatever at the time that she started to blow up, but I think it fits because I think everybody naturally felt this way. Like you just felt the connection, you could see the patterns or whatever. It's like she had that like Stone Cold-esque rise, where it's just like when you look at Stone Cold or whatever, like there was nothing like you could really put on paper that was like really bad about him before like he became like really like that defined character or whatever. It's just that he just wasn't there yet. Like for some reason he just wasn't there yet, which I felt like the same with Becky. Like I would look at her and I'm just like, well, there's nothing wrong, but like for some reason, why is this just there, like or whatever. And then I think she made that same decision like he did or whatever. It was just, he talked about this on the podcast. He said he was just resolute in this decision, which you can see in her eyes. She did the same thing. And since that moment, you haven't been able to stop her. And the reason why I love her so much is because you hear it when she speaks. Like when she would be on the mic or whatever, like you could hear how she was like, no, I want to be this. So, like in the way that she was talking to people, in the way that she would have quick comebacks or whatever that people weren't ready for, the way she would just call people a dope, the way that she would just like casually walk in and she would set the tone of like the interview or whatever it was, like once she would start talking. Like, so I like all those things about her, and those are like my favorite things about her. My favorite match will probably have to be WrestleMania, Charlotte and Ronda, whatever. I just thought like the moment, like everything that meant, and that being it was the last match, right?
Yep, main event.
Yeah, that being the last match and how they
because it came on at like 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was late as fuck. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like that being
wild late when it came on.
Yeah, and I guess my other favorite part about it is that she knows how to make her character big and keep her character big in ring while not treating it like it's a show off of her character. She's just wrestling in the moment. So it's a very hard thing to do, and she does it really well. So yeah, fuck with Becky.
Brother Chan.
Another unpopular opinion from myself. I was not in on Becky Lynch until like the whole man thing. I was like, this whole steampunk thing doesn't really make sense to me. Like, what are these goggles? Like, even this kind of happened during the WrestleMania match, which is like, this is like something that probably didn't have a big of an impact as I think it did, but like the amount of weave they put in her hair for that match, it looked so crazy. By the end of it was so distracting. I was like, yo, this shit is coming out. Like, take this out, Rebecca. Like, this don't need to be in there. Like, why do you have so much hair? Like it was just, they were doing too much of their character. But the man thing, I think what I really like about her, I don't have a particular match that I think is my favorite. I think probably the one in Evolution with Charlotte, if I had to pick one. But I think what I really love is when she's being serious. Like, sometimes when she gets a little jokey, it gets a little too Harry Potter for me. And I'm like, all right, like, really, like, champ, like, there's a little too Hogwarts. Like, you get a little too bippity boppity boo, and I don't really like that. But like when she was like bloody nose, like standing on the crowd, like arms out, or when she was really going at Ronda, like that was some of my favorite work. And we'll get to what I would rewrite, and it's part of that. But that was some of my favorite of her promo. Just being like, no, I'm not afraid of you. Like, I'm the man. You got to step to me first. Like, I'm the champion. You could tell she was really like pissed. Like, no, you've been given all this stuff, and like I had to grind for this. Like, you're not gonna hear and talk to me any kind of way. And I thought that was so perfect because like sometimes even with Charlotte, you can just tell they're too good of friends. Where it's like, I know you don't really hate her, like you just don't. Like, it's like some sisterly like beef yo guy. But like with Ronda, it was like, no, like, I really don't. Like, I mean, I don't know if they liked her or not, but like it just really, you could really tell there was some realness and like, no, like I run this. Like, you just got here. I live here. And like that, I thought that was such a fire part of the feud. It's really made me like come around her a lot. I like that a lot. Like, so like now I'm cool with her. Like, you know, having a kid thing is dope. I'll be really interested to see like what happens after this and how they kind of reestablish her. Is it like a Roman thing where she comes back totally different, or are they just going to kind of reboot her, or like kind of what role that has? I think that's really, really dope. But yeah, I think where I'm at now with Becky Lynch is a good spot, but I was not at first.
Yeah, she had a very, very organic rise, and it was a rise that WWE had to respond to. It's very similar to the Daniel Bryan Yes movement, where it was like, nah, this is too massive. Like, you guys have to give her this moment. And it was difficult because, as we know, the original plan was Charlotte versus Ronda at WrestleMania. That's what they were kind of building to. That's what they were hoping for. That was kind of what Ronda came to the WWE for. Like, it was just, it was kind of set in stone. People knew they were trying to bring Charlotte and Ronda together at the upcoming WrestleMania. But again, with Becky, it was just natural charisma. Like you said, she was killing her promos. Like, you really, really believed in her. And Channing, I was with you. Like, as I was a fan of her, but that heel turn felt awkward for me. It was like,
yeah.
Like,
where we going with this? Yeah.
I get it. You're angry. Like, you know, you want what you feel you deserve. But I felt like they kind of went about it a little weirdly. And then SummerSlam 2018 with Charlotte coming back and winning the title match, you know, we all kind of thought that was going to be Becky's moment to beat Carmella. And then Charlotte comes back and she wins, and then that, but ultimately that serves to build Becky up even more because Becky defeats her at the following pay-per-view and ends up going on her run. Now, J5, when I was pitching this topic, he brought up a good point. Like, what if Charlotte didn't come back at that moment? Like what if Becky just ended up winning the title at SummerSlam from Carmella and Charlotte just like fucks off? Like, how would the moment have been different? Like, would that have affected the clear momentum that Becky was building up? Like, how do you guys feel that would have changed things, if at all?
I think the issue you have, as most wrestling fans know, there's like a beautiful balance between like, if someone's hot, you can't have them just like get the title immediately because then it's like, I feel like they don't deserve this. It's kind of almost like, not the same, what kind of happened with Braun, when Braun got the Universal title, was like, yeah, he has it, but like, did he really earn it? Like, he just kind of is hot. But then what WB is much more guilty of is doing what they did with like Rusev, where like Rusev Day is this massive thing and they just never put the title on him. Or also, I guess before 2018, when they were just having Brock wash Roman like pay-per-view after pay-per-view with really no clear reason or like why you keep having the same match like over and over again? But when you hit that sweet spot, like you did with Brian, where it's like he gets close and he falls back a little bit. Gets closer, falls back a little bit. Gets closer, falls back a little bit. Same thing with Kofi, where like those pay-per-views leading up, where it's like, okay, this is going to be the one where Kofi wins. Oh no, it's Kevin Owens coming in, and so you kind of need that kind of sweet balance. And I think what you would have done with Charlotte and Becky is you would have caught her kind of like we were just saying, like at a time where her character wasn't fully developed. Like I think a lot of times people want to give their favorite people the belt, but reality, you need to have the character and then the belt comes secondary. And if you would give her the belt without the character, she would have floundered and you would have had to revert back to some Asuka Charlotte storyline. I think the good thing about Becky was that like everyone knew she needed, like she should have the belt, but she didn't need it. It was just like, no, give her that belt because like she earned that. And like that's why she needs it now. And like it just builds an anticipation where it's like, okay, I know like she got to get the belt. Like she's got to get it eventually. But if you just like gave it to her, it's like, all right, you can't really be the man if like you never had no hardships. You just like at that point, you're just like, generation one Drew McIntyre, where it's like, yeah, he's a chosen one, but like nothing bad really happens. Like, why do I believe that?
Yeah. No, it definitely did end up working out for her. I think back to Daniel Bryan, like before he had the Yes Movement WWE title run, he was World Heavyweight Champion before. He cashed in Money in the Bank, but like that was when he was like a very Weasley character, and like he was feuding with Mark Henry and Big Show, and then he ended up losing to Sheamus in like 8 seconds at Mania. But it was like at the time, you weren't really as invested in Bryan. Like Bryan was like he's obviously an incredible wrestler, like he's one of the greatest of all time, but the character was just like I didn't like that era of Bryan's character. So him being able to develop the Yes Movement again and being very organic is very reminiscent of kind of how Becky Lynch got popular as well. So we go to her winning the title from Charlotte. She ended up beating Charlotte a bunch of times, like you mentioned, the last woman standing match at Evolution. Yeah. And then we get to a moment where her and Ronda meet up at a pay-per-view. And it's like, hey, champ, see you soon. And this is the build to Survivor Series. So Survivor Series, we're expecting to get Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey versus SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch. This was one of the best builds to a Survivor Series I've seen with the invasions. The iconic moment where the SmackDown women invade Raw. Nia Jax rocks Becky's shit. She's bleeding, but like she puts a submission hold on Ronda, and then they just completely destroyed the Raw Women's roster. And then she's standing up in the rafters, holding her arms up, and that was the moment that really solidified her. Like it was incredible to watch. It's incredible to reflect on, and I think that was when WWE realized, like, okay, yeah, Becky's got the title now, and she's risen to be this like, a person that people look at as a superstar. But now she's like larger than we probably ever expect her. And so like we need to work Becky into the Charlotte Ronda plan that we have for WrestleMania. Now with Survivor Series, as you know, we ended up not seeing Becky versus Ronda. Becky was injured, and then Charlotte ended up facing Ronda. Charlotte lost the match by disqualification. She had crazily attacked Ronda with the kendo stick. But what do you guys feel it would have done for Becky and the future plans they had if the Becky and Ronda match ended up happening at Survivor Series?
Honestly, mine's short. I think you get a weaker Becky Lynch because you get this huge force of Becky Lynch against this huge force in Ronda Rousey, and I think it's just too soon. Like there's not enough to their story, and like if that match happens, it has to end in like a DQ or whatever. No one can go over.
Yeah.
And even if it does end in a DQ because they're on the two different brands, like it just gets weird after that. Like I think it just gets weird, honestly. So I think it was great that it ended up working out the way it did.
Yeah.
I also think that like, oh, sorry, I mean, cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I think part of it too is that Ronda was like becoming a better wrestler. Like she was pretty good in her first match. I can't even front on her. I was really surprised by it, but like she also needed time, like just legitimately to get better at it to give you a match. Because that's like one of the things I think that would have on the positive side. I think it might have saved WWE from themselves, because that's like one of my biggest gripes with the Mania match is that like it was just entirely too much going on. I think if you would have had it just one woman versus one woman, you would have had it so much simpler. And if we already got Ronda v. Becky, WWE wouldn't feel so much pressure to have all three of them in the match. They could have probably more organically figured out what to do. Because even like, and I know we're gonna get to that match, but I really have a lot of feelings, so I'm gonna trickle them out. Like the ending of that match, when I tell you when it happened, I did not realize the match was over. I was so confused.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I was like, wait, did they botch that? Is that a botch? I was like, well, the match is over?
Mm-hmm.
And like you felt emotional because then you see Becky, now I'm happy, but like it was just like, wait, what? And I think that because it was just too much going on. Like it was just too many people to pay attention to, like too much good wrestling for some parts, bad wrestling for other parts, but it was just too much. And I think if you have the Ronda match now, you might get it too early, but you also like free up creative, free up Vince to do, okay, we gave the people that, let's give them what like we really think is best instead of being like, we have to get all of these three of these elements into WrestleMania somehow, some way.
Yeah. Like, and it would have been an interesting situation having Ronda versus Becky. You know, I think about Roman versus Drew. Like, it's a match we've seen before, but they're two very, very strong champions, and they've been booked to look extremely strong. And this is Drew's biggest run of his career. So, you know, to some people, him facing Roman, like I didn't see this narrative going around, but it's like it's a very, very tough situation because you don't want to have Drew lose, but it's like he's not going to beat Roman either. And it's like with Ronda was undefeated for a full year until she lost at Mania to Becky in that triple threat match. So it's like you don't want to have Ronda lose so soon at Survivor Series, but you know also with Becky on her rise, it's like creative would have been in a really tough spot. So it's like Cece said, they probably would have ended up having to go with the DQ finish or a count-out finish, just like they ended up doing with Charlotte versus Ronda, because that's a tough situation to be in too. I mean, like Charlotte can lose. Charlotte's lost before. She's put people over. I'm sure she would have had no problem putting Ronda over, I'm sure. But you know, you want to keep Charlotte looking strong too. So they ended up going with the DQ finish where she goes crazy. But it's like with Becky, you know, what would you want to do in that situation? Like if Becky just straight up lost, would she be buried? Like would that mess up her run and her momentum? Yeah. Because she still would have been champion. But then we see at the following pay-per-view, we get a triple threat match between Asuka, Charlotte, Becky. Ronda ends up interfering, attacks Becky and Charlotte, and Asuka ends up getting her first SmackDown Women's title. And I remember when Asuka lost to Charlotte at Mania 34. I was a little iffy on it. It was like, yeah, Charlotte's incredible, but like Asuka's on this crazy run. She just won the Rumble. Like it would have made sense for Asuka to win the title. And not only did she lose to Charlotte, she lost by submission to Charlotte at WrestleMania. Straight
up.
Like she tapped out.
Yeah.
So for Asuka's first run with the title to be ultimately be a means to an end, because they ended up taking the title off of her like the week before WrestleMania 35. I was a little disappointed with that. So how'd you guys feel about Asuka getting the title in that way, just for it to end up being a means to an end to push Becky further?
So you were making a good point, and this is why I think everything working out the way it did, instead of like, you know, just being Becky and Ronda or whatever at that time, and Charlotte not getting substituted. This is why I think that would have been bad. Becky is like Drew in that sense, but Ronda is not like Roman. Like when I was watching the Survivor Series match, I genuinely didn't know who was going to lose because of two reasons. Both of these guys are guys who could win a match, like pretty much against anybody. Like you put them up against anybody, it's like, okay, they're probably going to win. And both of these guys can still be strong if they lose a match or whatever, depending on how it's lost and like, you know, other things like that. Plus, like the loss itself doesn't really say that much because they're so strong. And Becky had a lot of that kind of heat at the time. So that's not something that like everybody has. And the fact that like you did Asuka the way you did, like she can't really survive the way that these other people can. Like I think it was, to me, like in short, it was like bullshit or whatever, because like you had Becky go up against her or whatever, and you know, like Becky loses, but Becky loses to Asuka during this time where Becky's on this rise to become like, you know, the female equivalent of Stone Cold, whereas like Asuka just loses to Charlotte clean. or whatever. Like when she's on one of the hottest runs, like it's very inconsistent. And to me, I'm just confused about what the intention is there. I just don't know how they feel about her, and that's how I felt for years. Honestly, I'm just sitting in this like limbo of confusion.
Yeah, they've really been giving Asuka a lot more this year, and in large part due to Becky pushing for her to get the Raw Women's title with Becky taking a break. So it's cool to see how much Asuka's getting now. But like when she first came to the WWE, like she was one of the biggest things, and we were just waiting for her to get the title, and they really protect Asuka a lot. And like you said, to have her lose clean to Charlotte in that way twice, like Charlotte's made Asuka tap out many times. Like Asuka loses to Charlotte a lot, but with Becky to lose the title, and then at Rumble she loses again to Asuka, tapping out. Then she ends up entering the Royal Rumble. She ends up winning, last eliminating Charlotte. From there, we kind of set up the Mania match. She chooses to go to Raw because at this point it was like Becky was clearly like the top woman in WWE, and she was box office. So they wanted to get her over to Raw. Raw being the flagship show. So she pulls up. I remember that promo she cut on Ronda when she declared that she was going to fight her. That was like that made me a Becky believer. I was like, oh nah, like she's talking, like she's really and like Ronda looked genuinely like upset and frustrated and vexed at like what everything Becky had to say. Like she was talking cash shit. But then we get like a weird build toward Becky's Mania match because she ends up getting taken out of the match. Charlotte's just put into it, and then Becky faces Charlotte at Fastlane to win her way into the match. It's still just a triple threat. Asuka still has the title. It looked like it was going to be Asuka versus Fire and Desire at Mania. And then they end up taking the title off Asuka because they want to make the Mania match, with it being the first all-women's main event, they want to make it as big as possible. So they made a winners-take-all match. Charlotte brings in the SmackDown Women's title. Ronda brings in the Raw Women's title at the expense of Asuka now having nothing to do for WrestleMania. So how did you guys, with hindsight and with us understanding how WWE wanted to make this a major moment for Becky and for the women, looking back, do you guys feel like the match needed both titles? Is that what you would have done?
I think for myself,
oh, sorry, go ahead. My bad.
I am super duper Oscar hive, and for whatever reason, Vince or someone in the back decides every few months it's time to bury Oscar, and Oscar is truly unburiable. Like she's proved that, but they really go out of their way to be no, she's gonna catch up to some of these unnecessary L's. She's just gonna randomly drop to Bailey on a random Friday for really no reason. So they do that, and I thought, first off, don't want to be the Dr. Umar of the podcast, but it felt racial. Just want to throw that out there. I was like, why is she losing to Charlotte all the time? This is ridiculous. We know Vince's thing with blondes. I'm half joking, but it was also just kind of weird. Just I said, it's just Asuka's this woman you built up in NXT is cannot be stopped. And yet on the main roster, she's constantly being stopped by Charlotte Flair on the way to do something else. When it doesn't really serve Charlotte anything to do it. And so I think that was my first problem with it. And then secondly, I think what happens a lot of times is that WWE gets really into the poster. And they're on the poster though, it's gonna look fire with all three of them. And it's yes, that's true. That does look really cool. But like I was saying before, what you end up having is this really it's illogical the way Charlotte got into the match. She was just decided I'm gonna be in this match. And then it was when she faced Asuka, okay, of course you're gonna beat Asuka now. Because they've decided Charlotte needs to be in this match for whatever reason. It was just very it was one of these where you started with the end goal and then wrote the story to match that. But the thing is, the story had been already going on for 2 years. So you've retconned so much stuff where it's oh yeah, you can just decide you're gonna be in the main event at WrestleMania, even though you didn't win Royal Rumble or you don't currently have a title. You can just do that. And also, I said, it kind of just paid a service to Becky where it's wait, how did Becky lose this opportunity again? It's why is she having to fight someone to get into this match again? What is the point? And even Ronda, Yeah, I was like, she won the Rumble. Why is she having a match to do? She did it already. It just didn't make any sense, and especially because like obviously wrestling's unpredictable, but like you kind of knew Becky's gonna win. So like, are you really doing women just a big service by having Charlotte in the match? Or are you really just doing Charlotte a big service by having Charlotte in the match? And like Charlotte is not a proxy for all the women. Like I think that's something that WWE also does too, where it's like I wouldn't be surprised.
Yo, hold on, Janet. Say that shit again. Say that again. I'm sorry. I need you to say that sentence one more time.
Charlotte serves a lot of times. WWE thinks Charlotte serves as a proxy for all women. So it's like when Charlotte accomplishes something, like everyone does, and it's like that's not really like how this works. And they do that a lot, and I think that's what it felt like with Charlotte in the match. It was like, yeah, Charlotte's a great wrestler, but it's like at certain times, it's like, yeah, you could just throw Daniel Bryan into any match and make it a triple threat, but like you don't have to do that all the time. You can give us a little bit less Daniel Bryan, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Dolph Ziggler. It's like you don't need Dolph Ziggler in this match. He's a great worker, but he doesn't have to be here. Obviously, Charlotte Flair's not Dolph Ziggler, but like it's one of these where like you throw a little too much seasoning on here. You could just let it sit, let it cook. Let the meat speak for itself.
Yeah, it's like, obviously, again, we understand why they did what they did.
Yeah.
The plan was Charlotte and Ronda always, but again, WWE had to react to how popular Becky got, and it's like you could still have a huge women's main event. Like you have Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey brought the box office appeal. Yes, Charlotte's huge. Charlotte's always going to be there, always going to be popular, but it's like this huge Ronda Rousey, undefeated for a year, comes from UFC champion. She was whooping everybody, and then you got Becky, this underdog. Like WWE had 3 underdog stories going at that time with Becky, with Kofi, and then with Seth. And like Becky and Kofi's situations were like really, really similar, where like they got their matches at the last minute, and like different challenges kind of kept getting thrown their way. But it was like Becky's story was so compelling. Like you could have still had a really, really good main event for the Raw Women's title between Becky and Ronda, and then have Charlotte face Asuka at Mania, run it back the match from a year before, actually let Asuka go over, or if Asuka went into the match as champion, you could have Charlotte beat her for the title again. I don't know, whatever you want to do, but it's like it clearly felt like they were feeling the pressure to make the match as big as possible. Like they really just had to hot shot a lot and like really just run with it. So they ended up going with the triple threat winners take all. And like you said, the moment was amazing. The match itself, we'd already watched like 7 hours of wrestling, so it was just like I just wanted to see Becky win.
I was falling asleep.
I was like, I actually fell asleep. I had to finish the match the following day, but like it was like, I want to see Becky win, so I'll watch. But man, this is really, really tough to sit through. Like really, really tough to sit through. And it was cool with that Mania that they had Seth go on first with the Universal title. Like seeing a Universal Championship match like to start the show was fire. And it was like, all right, word. Like they're really gonna make sure the women's that's big. Like we really build up to that. But how the match ended up going, and like Charlotte is an amazing worker. Like you said, Ronda got a lot better at wrestling, and like Becky's great at telling a story in the ring, but the 3 of them together, the magic that we expected wasn't really there. And then when you get that finish, because they have to clear out the stadium because it was 1 a.m. and like they didn't pay to have it that whole time, so they have to rush a finish. And Ronda's shoulders clearly up. We're just like, I mean, it's an incredible moment for Becky. Like it definitely solidified her. I'm happy for her, but the way we got to it, so having seen that finish, would you guys have had the match finished differently?
I think it's even deeper than that. Like I'm looking at this card right now. You need to redo WrestleMania entirely. If you want that match to be your main event, I'm so sorry, but Shane and Miz, done. That's out of here. That 15 minutes could go somewhere else. I just realized I forgot about this match. Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle, that 5 minutes,
trash.
Keep that for something else. Like you do not need that match.
Yo, you
do not need that match.
You just
like,
reminded
you gotta start
me
with the root
of why I hated the end of Kurt Angle's career, and why I also love King Corbin at the same time. But I just wanted to say that because he created a moment I hated. That's what makes him amazing. But it's just, go ahead. What?
Yeah. you look at this card, it's like, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, y'all were doing a lot because you were in New York. But, like, even, like, why the Samoa Joe Rey Mysterio match, even though it was only a minute long.
Yo, that was trash. Oh, my God.
that wasn't good. Like, so I think you, like, get to this point where, like, the matches leading up to it are the Samoa Joe Rey Mysterio match, Roman Reigns with Drew McIntyre, which was a good match. But that went 10 minutes. Then Triple H Batista, which was a good match, kind of slow, but, like, dragged, was a good match. Baron Corbin Critical sucked. So you're already like, okay, this is stupid. The Demon versus Bobby Lashley, which like was a cool entrance, but like the match was And they're like, it's like 12-15. And we're just now doing these entrances. Like, oh my God. Like you're like kind of like sitting in for like this long. So I think that's the first thing you do. You start that. You definitely do that. And then I think you need to have Becky win clean. And I personally think you need to have, in my personal professional opinion, you have Becky tap Ronda with the armbar. Like, you make her tap to her own finisher. If Ronda's just going to be gone and you're not going to use her for anything else, which, I mean, maybe COVID not happening, they would have used it. But if it's really just, like, Ronda's donezo, you really, like, send Becky out as strong as possible. And you have her, like, tap out Ronda with her own finisher and be like, no, this is the man. I've told you about the weave thing. Like, first take that out. Just keep the straight back, like, little Bow Wow Dookie braids and get to work because you're the man. But, like, you make her tap out for the armbar. And you make her, like, because even she does a whole, like, Roddy Piper thing, which is, like, kind of disrespectful to Becky. And so you have her just tap out to the armbar and, like, really have Becky be like, yeah, I did this to you. I'm the man because I, like, showed you that, like, I can beat you at your own game. All that UFC stuff don't mean nothing to me. And Charlotte, like, be gone. Like, I think you probably do, like, a spot with, obviously not the same exact spot, but, where they put Brock Lesnar under a table for 20 minutes? And they were just like, he's just really not going to be in this 5-way match. When it was like, I think it was Extreme Rules of him, Joe, Braun, and they had him just gone.
Oh, yeah.
You do that with Charlotte. Where like you have Charlotte take a big spot where she like moonsaults off the ring into the crowd or something, and then she's just out of the match for like the end of it. And you have them kind of square up, heads up, and that's how you end the match, I think. And you also end it before, 1 o'clock in the morning. But that's what I think the biggest kind of key components are, is that you have Becky win incredibly strong and that you have Charlotte go out in a blaze of glory. And I think that's what
I agree with everything Shannon just said. And my only thing that I would add is just we need to emphasize how much we need to take matches off of this fucking card. I'm looking at 4 matches that are under 10 minutes long. So why are they even happening? There's one that's 6 minutes, 5 seconds long, 4 minutes, 5 seconds. One is 1 minute, as we talked about. I mean, it's just like, and then you have legitimately, there's like maybe 5 or 6 10-minute matches, which just lets you know that they could have been 5 if you really wanted them to be. So what are we doing here? But
yeah, the card was also arranged really interestingly. Like I said before, I like that it started off with the Universal title match, but Kofi's match felt a little too early. Like, that would have been a really good match.
Way too early.
Right before that main event. Like, I understand it's WrestleMania. They want to have all the titles on the card. They want to have people who will sell tickets. Rey Mysterio is a big name. Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, blah, blah, blah. But, man, like, they gave us big moments that we were excited about. Seth, Kofi, Roman's return. But, like,
the Iconics.
Yeah, the Iconics winning the tag team titles, which I'm still proud that I correctly predicted. But it was just like, it's like a trash pregame before a good party. Like, your
right.
Our vibes were just off. Like, it's like
off.
And the
they
moment
play a lot of Dave East this pregame.
Yeah,
I know we're in Jersey, but it's a lot of Dave East shots playing.
They was wilding. And so you have a really awkward pregame, and you're in the Uber on the way to the party, and you're like, I'm just not really feeling it. And then you get to the match, and it's exciting. Becky with her weave, and then the entrance she did, and just all the pageantry around it. The moment, like we said, was incredible. But like I agree, it would have been better to give Becky a stronger finish. Like, she's the man, and she ended up kind of, I don't want to call it Weasley, but like she had to like outsmart Ronda, and like she beat her with a wrestling move, which was cool. But it was a roll up or like a cross. I think I forget what the pin is called. Like, but it's
like a Celtic cross, but she didn't commit to it. Like, it wasn't fully
it
was just this isn't the end of the match.
I don't really like this. I didn't like it. You know, I was very, very happy for him. It didn't feel like the right punctuation to the year she had and the build up to it and how invested everyone was.
You know how she should have won? And I just got this idea by listening to what Shannon just said about the pregame. She should have went under the ring for like a little bit, let Charlotte and Ronda fight for a little bit, look like it get really close, and like maybe Ronda's about to win, come back from under the ring, super kick the shit out of her with a Tim on her foot. Because that Dave East comment just made me like she comes back in the ring with Tim's. She's just a New York nigga now for no reason.
For some reason, I could really see Becky
Lynch
wearing Tim's too. Like I feel like she wears Tim's. Like
Becky's from the Bronx. Becky's from the Bronx for sure. Yeah, from Canarsie.
Bronx Becky.
But no, I think also like even to Ronda's credit, it was kind of a disservice to Ronda because Ronda was having good matches. Then her last match was like, I guess that was her last match because it was even like the whole like I own the ground underneath my feet. Like you really like they really had set up this like collision course of like you cannot stop Becky right now, but also no one's really stopped Ronda. So like what's gonna happen? Yeah. And they just kind of came out to like oh, I guess it had to end. Like I guess it did have to end.
Like
what? Even like we were talking about the title matches, like the United States title match and Intercontinental title match are both after the WWE title match. Like why?
It made no sense.
Why is that so late in the show? Like what? It didn't make any sense.
You know what I think, honestly?
I mean, one good thing, Legend Brothers didn't wrestle, so that's good. Yeah.
Oh shit, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say I honestly think
hate the Legend Brothers.
I honestly think that
you good?
around the time of like the WWE started noticing like the internet like responding to things and like how like press is just kind of like press, and that's kind of like a good thing, which is why I think they decided on the day of to change the finish of the Taker Brock match or whatever, because they wanted to get that reaction. I honestly think that's like part to do with it too, like because it ties back to what Armand was saying earlier, like they really want to just milk as much milk as much out of it as they can or whatever. Like that's why decisions like that are made or whatever, because it's just like, oh, what would be crazy on the internet? What if we just had it like go this way? And it's just like, I understand like that aspect, but that's a thought that should be among other thoughts and not the thought, because it's ruining things.
Yeah. Too much 3D chess. Like you overthought how deep it needed to be, dog. Like we come here to watch zombies fight demons, dog. I don't need this whole like 3-dimensional chess of like the flares versus this. We don't need all that. It's fine. Just have them fight.
Yeah. They definitely did a lot.
Also, it could have been worse though.
It could have
been Italian.
Oh yeah.
It could have been Italian.
Could have been Italian.
Like, always think about that. Anytime there's a bad feud, it could have been Italian.
Hey, we gotta mark this as history. Shannon just buried a rapper and a wrestler in under 10 minutes and did it flawlessly.
Legendary.
I'm not bought in on the boat. Never have been. Never will be. Especially because of like speaking to Becky's point, I actually bring it back to podcast. I thought they were going to do Becky early in the career the way they do Naomi. How like Naomi will have a good 2 months, but then it's crickets for 10 months. And I thought that's where Becky was going. We're like, oh yeah, we do have Becky Lynch on the roster. Let's throw her out there. Oh, she can wrestle. Like, let's throw the title. Then, Charlotte's back. Never mind. Let's scrap that. Like, scrap that whole storyline. And I thought that was going to happen to Becky too, where it's kind of you pop off for a little bit and gone. And so I'm glad that it did kind of go the way it did. Even with like the Money in the Bank, like the way they got the title off her was very like real. Like it was like, oh, like she really, this like means a lot to, like, you could tell she was so not distraught, but like happy that she was having this kid and Oscar, but you could tell she was sad because this is her thing. Like she is the man. Like she is having to step away from this thing she loves. And that even like in retrospect really shows you how much that whole feud meant. Is that like, no, this is like her real life. Yeah. Like her life is now drastically different because of these things and these matches that we're also invested. So like that's super powerful. And I just feel like the thing that we don't talk about is the match itself that got us to this point, because the match itself was like not what we wanted. Like we talk about we talk more about the Survivor Series thing, way more than we talk about the actual match, because that was way cooler. That feud was like way better done and executed than like the actual triple threat match. It was like always kind of fun.
Yeah, I think that moment, also like that when Becky led the charge, that moment was like I think that moment was part of like the general wake up call that the WWE was getting around that time, and like part of the reason why we have the product what we have now, especially with the way the wrestlers are talking, how they don't have to fucking do like the scripts anymore. Thank you so much, or whatever. Like you can hear it or whatever. But that was just another moment where they woke up and they realized, like, you know, I know we've been in this world of numbers and data, and like we had the whole PG era or whatever for a while, whatever. I think we kind of got caught up in that, not realizing that sometimes when something just happens in reality, like something that's real that happens, it's just like you can't write that shit, and there's nothing better than it. Like when she stood up with that broken, because at first I looked at her and I was like, I mean, everything was going on. I was like, yo, is Becky bleeding? Because there's bodies everywhere. And I look and I'm like, wait, she's bleeding. But I'm like, yo, she's still going. And not only is she still going, it looks like she's going harder than she was than before she got punched in the face. Hold up, this nigga different. Like, so when you see stuff like that, that's how it makes like people feel or whatever. So like, I'm just glad that like she's doing that. I can't, and the fact that she went out at a time where like that was kind of her mindset or whatever, and like knowing that she's gonna come back or whatever, like, man, like she went out on a high or whatever. I can't imagine what it's gonna be like when she, like, I just really, the fact that I'm anticipating it is what makes me glad to be a wrestling fan, because that's how I felt all the time as a kid. When somebody was like gone for a while, I was just like, damn, like what is it gonna be like when they come back? So that's what I'm looking forward to with Becky.
Yeah, and you know, I think the great thing was seeing that she went from that rise as the man to being the man, like being not just a top woman in WWE. Like many referred to her as like the top person in WWE. And seeing her reign in a legendary Hell in a Cell match with Sasha Banks. Even though we had to start with a Lacey Evans feud, like she made us interested in a Lacey Evans feud, because Becky's just like that.
Yeah.
We got the winners take all Extreme Rules match, her and Seth teaming up. We got to see them be a couple on screen. We got to see them beat up Corbin and Lacey Evans. We saw Corbin give Becky took an end of days from Corbin.
That was fire, though. I can hold you. Dog. That was fire, bro. When he deep six her on that,
bro. And then
I thought, yeah, she's the man.
And then he turned to Seth, and he was like, "What you gonna do about it, bitch?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, yo, all right, Corbin, all right."
Can you not see the brilliance, the godliness?
My king, my king, my king. He does the work you don't want to do.
To slam a nigga girlfriend in the mat in front of thousands of people, turn to him and look him dead in the face and ask him what he's gonna do about it.
Mind you, he did this in a prom outfit. This one he was still wrestling in a vest.
Yep.
This man disrespected your wife in
he was looking like a ballet.
Pants.
Literally looking like a douchebag.
Looking like the
2008 high school movie. Like, how do you, the level of genius?
Yeah, but yeah, like Becky taking that and going on to do everything she did, ultimately fighting, being able to beat Asuka at Royal Rumble, making her tap out this time, going all the way to Mania. Beating Shayna Baszler. Becky really like became the top person and did the role justice, and now she's, you know, on red carpets and doing movies and TV shows, and like it just shows, you know, when you're in WWE and like your time comes and you really take it and you shine, it creates opportunities for you beyond WWE. And now, you know, like you said, she's got the kid coming, and congrats to her and Seth. You know, we're looking forward to when she returns and like what they're gonna do. But I think she's gonna come back and be right back in that top role, because the women's division needs top people right now. Like
there's really a void. There is a void.
Very clear void. They don't have two of the four horsewomen right now, and like Sasha and Bayley.
What are you talking about?
Now. Like Sasha and Bayley.
We have Lana.
Oh my God.
There's Lana. She's a sole survivor. What do
you shut your damn mouth?
What are you guys talking about? You got Lana. If you don't think that Lana versus Becky Lynch is her first feud, you are not watching WWE Raw recently, because that's definitely going to happen next year. They're going to find some way to build up Lana into a legitimate threat. She's going to get Money in the Bank. It's going to happen. She's gonna get Money in the Bank. She's gonna win it, and then she's gonna like come on Raw, and they'll be fans. She'll be talking like, I did this, I did that, and then you hear whoa, and then Becky's like, you got something that belongs to me, and I need that back. Because they're not gonna let Asuka lose to Becky. They wouldn't do that to her. They told you like she needs to be protected. It's gonna be Lana. Just watch.
I'm mad at that reality because that's actually gonna happen. But you know, it would be a sadder reality. What if they make us watch a Carmella versus Lana match? And like they have like titles, or one of them has the title.
That's not a match. You can't even call that a match. So that's not even funny. Because it's not even like a Braun.
I'm sorry to you guys.
Like
I apologize.
Match.
But I'm not watching that shit.
What is Lana's finisher? Does anyone know? Does she have a finisher?
Getting put through a table.
Yeah,
put through an announce table.
Did she get put through a table? She wins.
She does it well. She does it well. Getting buried.
I was just gonna say like white woman tears or whatever, because every time I see her on TV or whatever, it's just like she starts crying, and then it's like I'm like, oh, is this the finish? Like, is this how you get? Because this, I would walk away. You would win a match with me because I would just leave if you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Also, like the swapping in and out of the accent, how that's not a thing anymore. Love that.
Yo,
remember when she was like Bulgarian?
First of all,
that was a thing.
I prefer her to go in and out of the accent. Here's a crazy thing. I prefer her to have the in and out of the accent, because you know what? Now that she doesn't have that in and out, or like the one or the other, and you're trying to figure out what she's doing right now, whatever. Now that she's not doing that, and it's no longer Rusev Day in the WWE right now, I'm trying, like, what's interesting? Like, that was the thing I was looking for when she was on screen. I was like, okay, this person's on screen. I'm going to play this little game. What accent am I going to use? Now, when she's on the screen, I'm saying, oh, shit, now I got to play Can I Stay Awake? Like, what?
Yeah. It's awful. And she, like, was dating Mandy Rose. Not Mandy Rose, Liv Morgan. That happened. That was weird. She's married to Bobby Lashley, too. God, what? I just remembered that happened.
They did a lot of weird stuff last year. Like, they were just doing whatever back in December.
That's how you knew Bobby really wanted to be like, he was like, no, like, fuck the bullshit. I'm not trying to just be around anymore, because he let that happen.
I need to be
like,
involved.
That's how you know.
I need to be involved.
Yeah, it's crazy. People were actually invested in that storyline too. Like, there are people who actually liked it, like the Rusev Lana Bobby thing. Yeah, like
I thought it could be funny. It was a thing that could have been funny. And honestly, when Rusev would go out and do his stuff, that's when I was interested.
Yeah, Rusev's funny.
Yeah, like and you can tell Rusev is like naturally a funny ass nigga too. Like, and the fact that they never let him do that for real, I'm just like, okay. But like, I'm like,
he's on AEW now, so he's happy. Don't worry about it.
But that said, this is the Rewriters Room, talking about Becky Lynch, the making of the man. We miss you, Becky. We miss you, the mom. We're looking forward to meeting baby Messiah. And yeah, this is Armand, Channing, CC. Y'all know we're under the A Show RNC. Follow us at Rewriters RNC and the A Show RNC under RNC Radio. We got the A Show, War Report, Spots Callers, RNC Cooks Instagram, Black Variant, The Lookout. We got it all. It's too many things to put on our fingers, but our hands are always open. It's Christmas. We hope you all had a safe and enjoyable Thanksgiving. Those leftovers are probably going to go bad soon, so I wouldn't push trying to eat them.
By the time you hear this, definitely.
Yeah. So make sure you get them last plates in, but like also please like take care of yourselves, wash your hands, masks, hand sanitizer, all that stuff. We'll see you out in 2 weeks.